We are live. Thank you for joining me today, everybody. My name is Matt. I am really excited to get to talk to you about church communications. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Church Communications Blueprint webinar. Just some things right off the top before we really dive in. I want to let you know we got a live chat feature open right now. I see a handful of people have jumped in already. Kevin Wallace, thank you for joining. Anna Marie, Philip Rhodes, Kevin McCormick coming in from Pensacola, Florida. Okay, we're actually in Jacksonville, Florida, so we're just down I-10 from where you're located. Donnie H., Gayla Calloway, Jennifer, and everybody else, thank you so much for joining. If you haven't already and you're watching, go ahead and jump into the chat. Let us know your name. Share the name of your church as well and your location so that we can all get to know each other. Okay, and I know that sort of feels like in church service, everybody is told to get up and shake hands, and it's a little awkward for the introverts, but we love them anyways. So go ahead and share who you are and where you're coming from. All right, so a couple other things real quick. We have a really awesome YouTube channel, and I want to make you aware. You may, if you're watching this in the future, right now it's live, but if you're watching this in the future, you're probably watching this on YouTube. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on all future videos that we do. But we have over 150 videos that you can watch on our channel, including past webinars just like this one. So go ahead and subscribe. We also have a Facebook group. It's a wonderful community with thousands of ministers from all around the world who love doing ministry so much that if you join and you ask them any questions about church communications, somebody in there has the answer and they would love to help you out. So please, even if you're not using ChurchTrac and you just want to take a look at the software before you make the decision to join, go ahead and join the Facebook group. We would love to have you. And also, if you do have a ChurchTrac account, anytime you log in, there is a help button in the top, I should point this way, in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Go ahead and click that help button. You can submit a support ticket to reach out to the support team. You can also read our online user guide articles. We have dozens and dozens of articles you can read on all the things to do with your ChurchTrac account. So, let's see here. We've got a really awesome workshop ready for you. The church comms, because church communications covers a huge range from a growing list of different technologies and platforms to different methods of communication. And that includes email and text and your website, as well as your app and social media accounts, your church bulletin, the announcement slides at the beginning and end of your service, the sermon itself, the podcast if your church has one, and so many other things. And here's the deal. There are entire college degrees and professions out there focused just on one of these avenues. So you could have a job where your entire focus is posting on social media. People actually have a salary and benefits just posting all day. But you are expected to have an expert grasp on all of these platforms at your church. And most of us are not trained communication professionals. That's why today we are going to cover in this webinar why church communication matters, how you can use ChurchTrac for communication at your church, and also we're going to share some strategies to help you transform communication for your ministry. Be sure to be in the chat. I'm going to be asking some questions as we go. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat as well just to see what questions you're asking. And also we got some people behind the camera, behind the scenes that will be answering your questions in the chat. And they may even send me a few of those questions just to answer right here in the workshop. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to dive in. I hope you're ready. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this for a little while. So, first things first, we're going to talk about why church communication matters. Some of you intuitively understand why it matters already, but let's go ahead and jump into some of the nitty-gritty and some stats real quick. But first, I want to know where and how have you been communicating with your people so far? Do you primarily post on social media? Or is it through like an email campaign? Or are you sending texts on your phone in group chats? Are you managing multiple group chats? Let us know in the chat how you have been communicating or where you have been communicating with your people. Let's see here. All right, let me jump into the chat and see what some of you are saying. See Alan, text via ChurchTrac, yes. Philip Rhodes, all right, so you're already, and Jennifer, text and social media. So Philip, you're already ahead of the curve. We're going to be talking about texting in ChurchTrac a little bit later, so hang in there. But everybody else, if you're not already texting in your ChurchTrac account, buckle up. I'm going to share some really cool information with you. Tina Fry, you're saying Facebook and email. Jennifer, texting via ChurchTrac and easy texting. Okay, so you're managing two different accounts there. John Gerbic, oh man, email via Google. Okay, and a lot of you are answering. This is great. So you guys are already on multiple platforms and leveraging some of these tools and technologies to communicate with your people. I'm really excited to get to chat with you about all of that today. So the reason why church communication matters so much is that your people are increasingly online and increasingly mobile. For instance, more and more people at your church are adopting these technologies of communication in these platforms, including texting and social media. In a Pew Research Center survey just last year, they found that 97% of all Americans own a cell phone, and 85% of Americans own a smartphone. So 85% of people in America own the technology that can send and receive text messages, they can access social media, and they can send and receive emails. So more and more people at your church have the technology necessary for you to be able to communicate with them directly. Also text, let's just talk about text for a second. Texts have a 99% open rate, meaning 99% of all texts that are sent out are eventually open and read by the recipient. It's actually, texting is the best way to get information out to your people as quickly as possible. Their text messages have a 90% open rate after just 3 minutes and a 98% open rate after just 20 minutes. So it's the best way to get information to your people, to the most people at your church as quickly as possible. And that's compared to the open rates of email. I read a study once that said that email doesn't reach like 98 or 99% open rate until after like 80 hours. So emails take about 3 days for everybody to read them, but text messages only take about 3 minutes. So there's a big difference between texting and emails. And then also, in fact, I can even show you, there was a study that was done just by MailChimp. On their platform, they measured the open and read rates of everybody in different markets and different sectors on their platform. And they found that the religion sector, let me find that real quick, the religion sector had an open rate of 27.62% and even a click-through rate of 3.16%. So, and that's actually one of the best stats. The religion sector saw some of the best open and read rates and some of the best click-through rates. And by the way, open rates just mean the number of people, the percentage of people that actually open and read the message that's sent to them. And the click-through rate refers to the number of people who actually click on one of the links in the email that takes them to something else that sender sent them. So this is again one of the best stats, or some of the best stats among all the sectors. So email has, for the religion sector, a basically 1 in 4% or 1 in 4 open rate. But text messages continue to have the highest open and read rates, especially in such a short period of time. And this is true of everybody, including every age group. Even at your church, even the older people at your church are adopting smartphones, buying smartphones, and getting on social media and using texting as well. And I'm getting this from a study by AARP. I know I'm bouncing back and forth. You're seeing me, and I'm getting on the screen. I'm opening my laptop again. And I know David, the video guy, is probably a little frustrated bouncing back and forth. But I want to show you this study real quick. AARP, back in just the year 2020, did a study of the people that well, they just did a study of everybody 50 and older. And back in 2014, 8 in 10 younger Americans owned a smartphone, but only about half of adults over the age of 50 own one. But today, or in this case in the year 2020, smartphone adoption rate is at 86% of Americans age 50 to 59. And that's huge. That's a huge jump. And even people 70 years and older have a cell phone usage rate of 62%. So 62% of people over 70 currently own a smartphone. Another study that they did back in 2018 found that 70% of adults 50 and over own a smartphone, and an equal percentage are on social media. That's huge. In fact, among those ages 50 to 69, text messaging has overtaken email as the tech tool most used to stay connected. So even the older crowd is beginning to adopt texting more and more. Another study that I found that the people 65 and older have an adoption rate of texting of one out of 3 people 65 and over are using texting over every other method of communication. It's really surprising. More and more older people are using these platforms and these technologies to stay connected. So that's your members and supporters are using these technologies and platforms, and that's true across all age groups. And these technologies and these platforms can be leveraged to spread the gospel and build the body of Christ. That's the real reason church communication matters. So let's talk about how you can use ChurchTrac to communicate. One question I'd like to ask, if you're on ChurchTrac, what is the method of communication you use the most in ChurchTrac? Is it email, or is it texting, or is it Church Connect? And I'm actually going to talk about Church Connect in a little bit. I'm really excited to share that with you if you haven't already built your church app. But go ahead in the chat, share with me, what's the method of communication you've been using in ChurchTrac the most? Is it the email, or is it the texting? All right. Texting and email in ChurchTrac. Philip Rhodes, texting. Shane and Smith, texting. Perfect. Group text. I love it. I love seeing texting being the #1 way you're using ChurchTrac to communicate with your members. And the reason why is because texting is the #1 way to get information out to your people. Sweet. Sherry, Wayne, the texting. All right. John, Gerbic, neither. Okay, well, this webinar is for you. I'm really excited to show you these different methods of communication that you can use in ChurchTrac. All right, so from the home screen in the ChurchTrac account, let's jump into the people and family screen. This is where you find the messaging tab at the top. And this is where you can control all of the outbound communication to your members. So we're going to talk about email first. So email, this is where you can type up and send off an email to all of your members. With ChurchTrac, you can start emailing all of your members right out of the box. You don't even need to set anything up. You don't need to integrate anything. However, if you do have an email account with another platform like Google Workspace or maybe a SendGrid account or Amazon SES, you can integrate that as well and continue to use that email address. But with ChurchTrac, you can log in and start sending your messages with CT Mail. What that means is you can jump into the messaging tab, click email, type up a message, and send it off to everybody that you have an email address on file for in the people screen. However, you can use SmartList to send targeted messages. In other words, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can choose who to include in the message and say, you know what, I want to send an email just to the guests to invite them to an upcoming event for the next steps or a membership class or just a get-together, meet and greet with the leaders of the church. Another benefit of CT Mail is you can even select which user receives an email reply anytime somebody replies back to the email that's sent out. So if you're like a secretary and you can send an email for an event coming up for the youth group, but then select the youth leader to receive all the replies from the parents and the students so that they can continue to manage that event. But you also can, again, integrate with another platform and just control all the messages from your ChurchTrac account through that platform. But while we're on the subject of email, I also want to point out MailChimp. So MailChimp, we export to MailChimp. We have an integration with MailChimp. What that allows you to do is it allows you to export your contact information from the people screen in ChurchTrac over to an email newsletter in MailChimp. Now in MailChimp, one thing that's really great about MailChimp is you can, well, first of all, the difference between CT Mail and MailChimp is simply that with MailChimp you get branding tools. You can add your church's logo and colors, and there's also some really easy to use templates that you can just drag and drop information into. But beyond MailChimp, if you're using ChurchTrac email, it's a lot simpler than using MailChimp. And one of the benefits of using ChurchTrac email is you don't have to log out of ChurchTrac and move into another platform. That's one of the reasons why we made ChurchTrac the way that it is. We made ChurchTrac to be an all-in-one platform that can manage all of your needs, including your communication needs. And this includes like your direct, and this goes beyond communication. We made ChurchTrac to cover your directory needs, your church app needs, your event planning needs, your volunteer management needs. But with communication, we wanted to make sure that you didn't have to log out of ChurchTrac and jump onto another platform to do what you need to do for your ministry. And again, this includes communicating the gospel. So With ChurchTrac Mail, you can set who receives the replies, you can use SmartList to send targeted emails, and you can also integrate with MailChimp and export your contact information over there. The next thing I want to talk about is text messaging. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you can jump right into your ChurchTrac account and send text messages without any setup. You can send text messages to everybody at your church or just a group through your SmartList as well. Now, there is also an integration that you have available through Twilio. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat who has integrated a Twilio account with their ChurchTrac account. I think I saw somebody earlier had integrated Twilio. Have you integrated Twilio with ChurchTrac? And the reason why I'm asking about Twilio is because Twilio allows you to take your texting at your church to the next level. When it comes to texting in ChurchTrac, it's a one-way line of communication. It's all outbound. But with Twilio, they give you the opportunity to engage in two-way texting. So your members can reply back to the text and you can have a back and forth conversation with them. In fact, if you go to the home dashboard screen in ChurchTrac, let me zoom back in real quick so everybody can see this. I'm actually going to zoom out and just zoom in like this. There we go. That's better. The Messages tab at the top here allows you to communicate back and forth with all of your members, and you can manage those conversations here. And you can also set up auto replies. Auto replies allow you to create a keyword and then set a custom message that is sent to somebody at your church anytime they text your church's number that keyword. So in other words, if somebody is new at this church, they can text the word new to this church's phone number, and they'll get a reply back with a link to a connection card with some more information about the church. So you can have automatic replies with Twilio. Another benefit of Twilio is they have the lowest rates in the industry. Twilio is a really big platform. They send literally billions. They facilitate the sending and receiving of billions of messages every single year. And you can get lower rates with Twilio than you can get anywhere else. In fact, you can get rates that are so low that you can even text for free with Twilio. This is the big reason why I'm talking about Twilio today. There's actually a link in the description below to a video we did for church texting for free. Go ahead and click on that link. There's actually a few other links as well to some other videos. But if you watch any video from the description today, make sure it's the church texting for free video, because this Twilio allows you to have a $500 credit of texting. And at my church, we have been using that $500 credit for several months, and so far we've managed to use only 1%. That's because the Twilio rates are so low, it'll take us forever to use up those $500. So I recommend you join and create a Twilio account, integrate it with ChurchTrac, and then sign up to get the $500 credit. And that video in the description tells you how you can get that credit. All right, next is another thing that I want to mention. This is just sort of an honorable mention. With ChurchTrac messaging, you can also do voice messages. So you can actually record a message and send it out to all of your members. It works kind of like the old school phone trees back in the day, if you remember what those were like. Now, last thing I want to tell you about when it comes to communicating in ChurchTrac is Church Connect. This is a feature that's available to everybody on our platform that has a standard or pro subscription. Or, excuse me, plus subscription, I shouldn't say pro. So this is how you can get an app for your members. Church Connect is ultimately three things. It is a full church website, it is a church app, and it is a member portal all rolled into one. This screen here is where you manage everything. You can add cards, add content, you can remove things. It's very easy and simple. It's the easiest and most intuitive app platform you'll ever find for your church. When it comes to the app though, I actually have this smartphone here. I want to show you what the app looks like on your smartphone. So, I think our video team should be pulling this up here in just a second, but you'll see the app on my phone. It's the blue one. I'll go ahead and tap on that. And that opens up the Church Connect app for the account that I've been showing you today. So this is the potential church, and if I scroll through, I can find the connection card. I have the podcast for this church, the giving platform to donate. I can connect and send a prayer request. I can learn more about the church. I can even sign up and volunteer for an upcoming event. All of this can be done through Church Connect. Church Connect, you can customize it to be whatever you need it to be for your ministry, But one thing that I would love to see you do with Church Connect is turn it into a hub of all of your other online presence or content for your church. In other words, you can link to all of your social media accounts. You can communicate with your members by having them sign up and volunteer for an event, and then continue to send them messages through that registrations form. You can also add information about upcoming events at your church or just right here on Church Connect and prompt people to register for them here. And as a member of this church, I can sign in with an email address and a password I've created, and now I've actually accessed the member portal side of Church Connect. So in the top left-hand corner, I'll choose the menu option. I can update my profile information and make sure that's up to date on the people screen in ChurchTrac, so the church directory can be up to date with my most recent information. I can stay on top of any upcoming events at this church, and I can also view my own giving history. So all of this is added to the Church Connect app. And your members can have this and communicate and stay in touch and up to date on everything that's happening at this church. That's what you can use Church Connect for. So you can use Church Connect as another avenue of communication with your members. So those are all the primary ways that you can manage everything and communicate with your members in ChurchTrac. Let's go ahead. I know I've sped through a bunch of stats, and I've also sped through how you can use ChurchTrac for communication. And the reason why is because I want to make sure we have as much time as possible to devote to the real reason you signed up for this workshop. And we're going to talk about church communication strategies. So let's go ahead, and I've actually got a few questions for you. One of them is, when it comes to communication with your members, does your church have a strategy in place, whether it be in writing or just something that you and the leaderships have all sat together and talked about? Do you all have a strategy of communication and a plan for how to communicate with your members and with the broader public? I am actually, at the end of this section, I'm going to talk about some strategies and some advice and also share some basics. But what I want to do is I want to share some things that I have seen some churches do that have really succeeded at communication. And I want to emphasize that, because this isn't me. I haven't just sat down and done a bunch of Googling and now I'm here to tell you what to think and what to do for your church. I have served at a lot of churches, and I have had the chance to chat with a lot of other churches as well. And I have seen churches of all sizes really crush it at communication. And I've also seen churches of all sizes struggle. So I want to share the insights that I've gathered from all of these churches. The churches that I've seen excel at communication have ultimately done two things. First of all, they have differentiated between internal communication and external communication. They have sorted all communication into one of those two categories. Internal communication has to do with all communication between your church and the members, or the supporters, or the volunteers. Basically, everybody who is already well connected with your church. The goal of communication, in fact, and again, this has to do with like volunteer coordination, donor communication, general updates and reminders, sermons, service announcements, and a lot more, including the podcast if your church does a podcast. The goal of all internal communication should be three things. It should be to encourage, to increase engagement, and also bring everyone together or build community. All of your communication toward your members and toward your supporters should be one or more of those three things. The other type of communication is external communication, and that's to do typically with the broader public. This can be on social media. I've seen churches pour a lot of time and work into their website to accomplish this. And this can also include emails. In fact, just as an example, my church did an Easter egg hunt earlier this year. And everybody that came, we met people from all over the community that had never even heard of our church. They just knew that an Easter egg hunt was going to happen at this park on this day. And we met with a lot of people from the community, and we gathered their contact information, and we started sending texts and emails to those people. And we invited all of them to church. So you can use texting and email for the general public as well if you're gathering that information from them. The goal of all external communication should be to inform and to invite. That's the primary focus of everything that you send out to the public. As you craft an email or a social media post, or as you're preparing to send a text, the question you have to ask yourself is, who is the audience? Who is this for? Is this for the whole church? Is it for just a particular group of volunteers? Is it to donors? Is it to some newcomers who know about the church but they've only just started coming? Or is it to the broader public? And that leads me to the second thing that churches that I have seen do really well at communication do. And that is that they know their audience. So they've sorted all communication into either internal or external communication, and they've gotten to know their audience really well. And I don't just mean that they know their audience as in they know who they're sending their messages to. I mean that they know their audience so well that they even know what their audience needs. And they've begun to learn how to communicate to those people how their church can meet their needs. Now, this is going to take a lot of creativity on your part and a lot of thought, but you already know the main portion of your audience. And that's kind of one thing that's really cool about church communication. Your main audience is your members, and you already know who they are. You probably already have a pretty good idea of what they need. The other part of your audience is a little bit trickier, and that's the public. But this is where it becomes apparent that church communication is really just one vital organ in a fuller body full of other vital organs, and all of you have to depend on each other to function. So church communication is sort of like your lungs, and then the evangelism or outreach is like the heart. And church communication, when it comes to the broader public meeting their needs, it relies on your church engaging in outreach and evangelism and meeting the people in the neighborhoods and in the streets so that you know exactly what your community needs, and so you can communicate to them how your church can fill those needs. So what are some ways that your church has gotten to know your audience, whether it be your members or even the broader public? How has your church been working to serve the needs of your public and communicate to them how you can meet the needs of your audience? I would love to hear anybody's thoughts. That's one of the reasons why in ChurchTrac that's why we have a Facebook group, and we would love to see you a part of that group. Because if you ever have any questions or need some advice or would just love to get the creative juices flowing, you can join that Facebook group and ask your questions there. And again, like I said earlier, there are people in that group that have ideas, that have advice, that have a lot of experience, and they would love to help you out. So go ahead and join that group if you haven't already. Now, while you answer that question, I just want to give you a little pro tip. Part of knowing your audience is to know know when and how to drop whatever isn't working. What we recommend and what I recommend is taking a poll of your audience, taking a poll of your members. One cool thing about Church Connect is you can actually use Church Connect to do this. You can create a form card that adds a form to your Church Connect page. And through that form card, you can take a poll. You can customize it to ask specific questions and learn what methods of communication your members prefer. You always need to be willing to adapt when it comes to communicating with all of your people. Let's see here. Tracy Stickney, you say joining in local events like the July 4th parade, touch a truck event at elementary school. That's awesome. So you're going to the parades, you're going to the elementary schools, you're meeting parents. That's perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about. Make sure that you're always in touch with that larger community so that you can know how best to communicate to them and share with them how your church can meet their needs, so that you can invite them into your church so that they can hear the gospel. That's awesome. Okay. Now before we begin, before we really dive into the strategies, I want to cover a few basics. So, communication basics. Number one, I recommend you always be consistent with your communication. What I mean by that is if you're sending like a church newsletter, always pick a time and then always stick to that time. Now, as an example, I personally subscribe to a lot of blogs and a lot of Substacks and a lot of YouTube channels. And all of these people have a regular schedule for when they post something. And I know what that schedule is for all of these people. And I look forward every day to waking up and checking my inbox, my email inbox, and seeing the articles and the videos that I can read or watch throughout the day. And I know what that schedule is, so I always look forward to the exact specific content I'm going to see each day. You can do that. You can exploit this feature of human nature by picking a specific time and sticking to it. That way your audience always knows when you're going to send them that newsletter, and they can expect it, and they can read it whenever they have time in their schedule. People are creatures of habits. They love their routines. It's good to know this so that you can exploit that and leverage that for your communication so that you can give them an expectation. The next thing, the next basic number 2 is I recommend you align the message with the vision. Always try to work towards explaining or communicating what the vision of your church is and what the mission of your church is. If your church has a mission statement or a vision statement, learn what that is, or don't just learn what it is, but use that to produce content or ideas for how or what you can communicate with your people. That way, what people are receiving from the church throughout the week matches what they hear when they walk into the doors of the church. And it also helps because this way they can join the story of your church. They can feel like they're a part of it and they're engaged with it throughout the week. Now, this requires a lot of creativity and consideration on your part. What I recommend is you meet with the rest of your leadership team and brainstorm and talk about ways that you all can work towards communicating, whether it be from the pulpit or from social media or through an email, what the church is doing and future initiatives and how the people who receive that message can join the story of your church. And then number 3, I recommend you just have fun. Everybody behind the camera right now in the office, if they're watching this, they're all laughing because I harp on this all the time. Yeah, I don't know, you maybe heard it. They're all laughing it up right now. I recommend you have fun simply because joy is contagious. No one is going to be excited about what you're talking about if you're not excited about it too. So have fun, be joyful, share with everybody the joy that you have in Christ. That's the goal. Now those are the basics, being consistent, aligning the message with the vision, and having fun. Let's talk about a few strategies. And again, this is what I have seen churches do that do communication very well. I recommend first you post daily on social media, every single day. I know that may add more to your plate, but the good thing is there's a lot of resources that allow you to create content easily or even for free. You can create an account with Canva and produce really awesome original content that looks great and is easy to create. But if you don't have time to create original content, there's a lot of pages on social media that produce visual content for churches, like YouVersion or even Sunday Social. I recommend you post primarily visual media just because people are very visual and that gets the most engagement on social media. But you can share images of verses or a portion of the sermon. You can add all of that to your social media page, and your members can then share that and get your church in front of more people. That's the best way to get your information or to communicate with the public. The second thing I recommend is that you start a weekly newsletter. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, and that is some of you have probably had a newsletter in the past, and in some cases you've even ended that newsletter and you've discontinued it. Others, you're sending emails all the time and you're wondering if anybody even reads them. When it comes to emails, I know that in many cases it feels like nobody reads your church's emails, or it feels like the church newsletter is dead. We've actually got a couple of videos linked in the description below. Go ahead and click on those links. You can watch the Why Nobody Reads Your Church email just to see, and I give advice for how to improve your open and read rates for your emails. And the Is the Church Newsletter Dead? I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we think you should have a church newsletter. And the reason why is because people who receive a newsletter, they have opted into that newsletter and they have subscribed to it. They have consented to receive that information from you. And that's an invaluable resource. Most of the people that consent to that or subscribe to the newsletter, they're people who are already very devoted to the church. They're probably attending regularly, volunteering, and donating as well. It's important to foster a deeper connection with those people and to maintain that connection with them throughout the week. Church newsletters are one of the best ways to do that. There are lots of platforms for church newsletters. MailChimp is the one that we integrate with, like I showed you earlier. They offer, even with the free account, you have branding tools and some really easy to use templates to make your church newsletter look great. But ChurchTrac Mail is the easiest way to get information out to your people. In fact, we recommend you use ChurchTrac Mail just because A text-based email like from ChurchTrac Mail feels more personal and has a better chance of being read and even improves the click-through rates of your members. So go ahead and jump into ChurchTrac Mail, go to the People Family screen, go to the messaging tab, and start sending your church newsletter messages from that platform. And then last but not least, one piece of advice that I have seen and that I've noticed churches doing more and more and seeing a lot of success and a lot of interactions with is they're making their text messages actionable. What I mean by that is they don't just send reminders, they don't just send information. They include a link in that message. That way the person receiving it always has somewhere they can go to learn more, or where they can go to sign up, or where they can go to donate. But always give the recipient of that text something they can do with the text. That way it's not just a one-way line of communication, it's actually a call and response. Your members can interact with the text and learn more. In fact, I mean, at my church, we did an event a few months ago, a big prayer event. And in the text reminder, the day of, the morning of, I just included a link to the Google Maps location where we were holding the event. So no matter what, even if it's just a reminder text ahead of time, you can always add some content that gives people more than what's just in the text. Always make the text actionable. Every single one of you watching this wears multiple hats. We're aware of this fact. We talk to all of you all day long. Some of these hats require you to be experts in communication, even though you're not a trained expert. Now what I've shared so far today, these are just ideas and suggestions. A lot of you have probably tried some of these things and found that for your church, they don't work, and that's okay. Remember, it's always okay to get rid of what doesn't work and shift gears. Always be willing to adapt. Whatever does work though, you have the tools available to you in your ChurchTrac account to communicate with your church and with your members and continue to spread the gospel that way. You can mix and match all of this as you see fit and add your own ideas as well. That concludes the main portion of this workshop. I'd like to actually transition into the Q&A time. Go ahead and add your questions. We're going to go ahead and leave the chat open. Go ahead, if you've asked any questions and we weren't able to get to them, go ahead and add them again. I'll be in the chat. We'll spend the rest of this time answering questions that you have. But while you're typing your questions, I want to remind you, we have a really great YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe to that channel. You can watch this webinar in a few days when we add it. You can also watch all the past webinars we've done, as well as over 150 other videos about ChurchTrac. We also have a wonderful Facebook community that we would love to see you join. In fact, I think somebody left a link earlier to the Facebook group. Go ahead and click that link, join the group. We'd love to see you there. If you have any questions about church communication, you can ask them there and get the answers you're looking for. All right, so questions. Philip Rhodes. In texting, is it best to use tags or smart lists? A little confused on the difference between the two. We recommend smart lists just because smart lists are automated. Whenever you set criteria for a smart list, our system will automatically add the people that meet that criteria and exclude everybody else. That means that if anybody that's in that list no longer meets the criteria, they'll be removed automatically without you having to change anything. Tags are dependent upon you assigning a tag to a person or removing that tag whenever they don't need that tag anymore. So smart lists are a little more dynamic and more automated, and therefore a little more accurate according to the expectations set by the criteria in that smart list. But you can use tags if you want to, like if you have a tag for a particular group of volunteers, like the children's ministry, and you have everybody tagged according to their different roles, you can use those tags to reach out to those specific people. That's fine as well. Coco Media, you ask, please consider developing the announcement card, including announcement templates, in Church Connect. So you want a card that you can use just to announce, let's say, an upcoming event. You can do that in Church Connect. There are page cards that you can add that allow you to add. I'll just show you. So under the Connect menu, I'll click the Add Card button, and you can add a page card that you can then update information about that event. I see churches use the page card for upcoming events and announcements all the time. But as far as upcoming events go, your members already have access to that information in whenever they log into their account. There's also a quote card. So if you want to use like the expandable card or the quote card, the expandable card is cool because it collapses when people don't click on it, so it doesn't take up much room on the screen. If somebody taps on it, it expands to open up to the text that you've added to that card. Also, the quote card, it's easy to update. We see churches add that or use that for like Bible verses or like a mission statement, but you can quickly update that information to include new announcements all the time. All right, Anna Marie, you ask, is there a video about making a directory available to the church? Yes, if you go to YouTube, search ChurchTrac software, we have a video for how to create a church directory. There's also an article in our user guide for how to do that in ChurchTrac. So you have access to an online directory in Church Connect. We also show you how to create a church directory in print, or how to use Smart List to pull together a church directory. So there's multiple different avenues for directories in ChurchTrac. And we have videos on the YouTube channel that you can watch. Philip Rhodes, got it, thanks, awesome. All right, I'm glad we were able to get you taken care of. Chris Edwards asks, so is emailing directly from ChurchTrac new? We used to have to copy emails and paste into Gmail. It's not new, as in it's not super recent. We've had this feature for a while, but it is fairly recent. You used to not be able to send messages in ChurchTrac, but in recent years we've added these communication tools. So yes, if you want to send emails, you can do that. Since you have a Gmail account, you can link your Google Workspace account to ChurchTrac and send emails through that church Gmail account and just manage it in ChurchTrac. But you also can just use ChurchTrac Mail, whichever you prefer. But you can send emails from ChurchTrac. That is correct. Anna Marie, thank you. Just learning all this. Wonderful. I'm glad you joined. If anybody else has any other questions, go ahead and please ask them now. I have really enjoyed chatting with you about church communications. I know this one's been a little bit shorter than normal. It's been about 40 minutes. But I wanted to make sure that this was quick and easy and digestible. Make sure to always reach out to our support team. There's that help button in the top right corner of your account. You can reach out to us in a support ticket or even schedule a phone call if you feel like whatever question you have could be answered in just a quick 15-minute call. Tracy Stickney, this is amazing but overwhelming. Yes, I know it's a lot. It feels like you're drinking from a fire hose. It felt like that to me as well when I first started serving at my church and when I first started even communicating with churches here at ChurchTrac. There was a lot. Communications is a huge field. And it feels overwhelming to us because we're not trained professionals. But that's why we are here. That's why the support team is here. That's why we make these videos. That's why we do these live workshops. We want to help you and give you any advice that we possibly can. Philip Rhodes, ChurchTrac is amazing and the people who work there are so helpful. Thank you. We love serving the church. We're here to build the body of Christ and to equip you to build the body of Christ. So we love partnering with you in your mission. All right, Coco Media. Or you just appreciate the live sessions. Good. M. Merrill, sending email through ChurchTrac is only text-based on not a good newsletter format, correct? We previously used FaithLife. That is correct. CT Mail is text-based. There's not like a template that you can use to create your newsletter. MailChimp has templates that you can use, and they're very easy. They're literally just drag and drop content into that template. With ChurchTrac Mail, it is just text-based, but it's actually, we're seeing that that's preferred by church members. Text-based emails typically have a higher open and read rate simply because they look more personal, especially if you sign the email with a person's name, like your name, rather than just sign such and such church team or something like that. The more personalized you make it, the more likely the recipient is going to open it and read it. Abraham, you ask, how do you get church members to interact with ChurchTrac more? I'm assuming you're talking about Church Connect. We give you, and David, if you want to show them the screen again, we give you the information that you need to share Church Connect with all of your members. First of all, there's the URL. You can share that. You can send that in an email or a text message. But also under the Connect menu, we give you the QR code. You can download this code. You can put it up on a sermon slide or a announcement slide. You can put it up in the welcome center of your church. anywhere members are going to see it, are more likely to see it. That way they can scan it. It'll take them right to where they can download the app onto their smartphone. Jane, you ask, can you include a graphic as the body of the email, or does it have to be an attachment? It has to be an attachment. You can attach media content to your emails, but it's only through that attachment option. Gary, you ask, is there any database whereby I can import a hymnal into the song library? You can't import a hymnal into the song library, but under the worship and scheduling screen, you can import from Song Select. So if you have that song information in Song Select, you can bring it in. And you can also add songs yourself manually. So whatever songs you have in that hymnal, you can add to your ChurchTrac account. All right, and Gary, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the support team for any assistance with getting any songs added to your ChurchTrac account. All right, it looks like that's everybody's questions. I'll go ahead and just say we love chatting with you. We love doing these workshops. I really enjoy talking to you about church communications. I hope this inspired you. I hope this gave you some ideas for how you can communicate with your members and with everybody else, the rest of the world, and share the gospel that way. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you have a blessed day.